Wow, start all over. Thanks, Carvin. I appreciate that. So, for those joining us, I will rehearse that all again. I have my notes overlaid on that button, couldn't tell it was red. So, thanks for joining me and looking at leading to grow and growing to lead and really addressing and asking those questions of yourself. Which one are you? Which category do you fall in? What is the percentage? Still no sound. Do we still have sound? Somebody tell me if I have sound or not. I will step out of this for a second. I'm staying here. Don't go anywhere. See if we can switch audio sources. Testing one, two, testing. I think we're good. We're back. Allie, any difference there? I'm gonna blame my producer today. You can read my lips well. You know me too well, Rob. All good. Thanks, Carvin. Okay, we will start over fresh. Nothing is going to derail us or keep us from delivering this message to you guys because it is a message that I've had to wrestle with, one that I've had to step back and look at life and ask myself, am I really at a place where I want to grow or do I want to just keep on doing what I do? So it doesn't matter your role, Carver, in your insurance sales. It doesn't matter what you're doing. We need to ask ourselves this good question out of the statement that we touched on, leading to grow or growing to lead. In those two statements, we can ask ourselves the question, at the current place I am in life, which one of those am I? So if we're just leading in life, we need to recognize that you and I are the driving force. We are the anchor element to our own personal growth. Nothing else, no one else, nothing that goes on in your world around you will cause you to grow greater than your own self-reflection and your own ability to say to yourself, okay, I recognize my weakness. I recognize my strengths. When you have strengths, you don't need to exercise those more to make them better. You now need to focus on your weaknesses. So leading in your life, we need to find a way to set some expectations. We need to set those expectations so that we can meet them. We can drive to find success through our journey of looking to improve, but we need to set expectations of what others around us are anchored in. And that's when I noticed one of my former athletes on here, Cody, was on here, and I said, Cody, you're going to relate to some of these. As a coach, my goal was to always coach out of the position of encouragement, a position of edification. If I coached out of the position of just flat, almost a damnation of I am the one that's in charge and authority over you, you need to do this, athletes would not have performed well. Students would not have performed well. As a point of illustration, I had an administrator one time when I was in the classroom teaching, walk through my classroom, and I noticed that it became a repeated pattern over the next weeks or so. And I was starting to actually get to the point of worry for my own sake of what I was doing. But one day he stopped after class and he said, Mr. Johnson, I'm just really curious what you're doing in your classroom. And I'm asked just a clarification out of content. You mean content? What am I doing? He's like, no, I walk through your classroom and every student is on task. They're diligent. They're performing. And I said, what's interesting is you're just giving me a summary of what the expectation from them has been set to be. It's a high bar. When we set a high bar in leadership, people know where to go. They know where they're achieving to. They know what their plan and their path and how they can be successful. If we let them wander, they will wander. Understand that. So in leadership, we need to assess what goals, what measurables, what attainables, am I presenting for these athletes, these individuals, these students to be successful? So the reason I was delighted that Cody was on here was because Cody understood what the expectation was and could work daily, weekly, monthly, through the whole season to bring himself to the bar of where only his own self measure of excellence is all I could ever ask for. But we did measure it. We measured it often and we looked at it and we assessed, and then we stepped back and we did what it took to work on certain skills, certain things to get better. So that's in the classroom and on the field. And you might be thinking, but you don't, Matt, I'm not a teacher. I'm not in education. I don't have a background in pastoral ministry or administration. What I'm going to ask you right now is look at what you are leading. Ask the areas that you know you don't have the opportunity to declare, here's our goals, here's our expectations, but you get to lead out of those expectations, working with excellence, working with diligence. People see that, people recognize that, people understand that. You don't have to say, I'm going to go to my cubicle now and work with excellence, because you've already established that of a pattern and a plan and a path of what you do as an individual. So that topic, when I was brainstorming it for myself to figure out how many episodes I could talk on this topic, leading to grow and growing to lead, to me had two sides of the same coin. Leading in business is often drastically different than leading in just a coaching situation or leading a classroom situation or in home. Leading a business oftentimes is way more challenging. Way more challenging. And you might ask why. Why is it any different? Well, if we overlay the difference of having to provide an outcome, a return on investment, right? ROI, as the industry would say it. In business, we have the direct relationship of profits and loss. So you hold that authority as a boss over someone. I'm going to ask you to measure how well do you do giving the measurables, the attainables, or do you simply only give those as a boss? Only, hey, I need you to do these things. There's never any acceptance of the individual. There's never really any accountability. It's just you didn't do it, you didn't meet it. I have some notes here that I want to look at and understand a picture of one of the greatest, most influential leaders, and that is Christ himself. Looking at the life of Jesus. So as we lead in business, we understand that time is the commodity. We're always weighing ourselves against our budget, against our quarter, our understanding of where we're at. But due to the tyranny of the urgent, the expectation of development of an individual is typically not one that's full of grace as you approach accepting them as a person, helping to empower them, helping give them affirmation. You are just flooding that person with demands. But instead of grace, we understand that grace is pushed aside when they can and can'ts aren't achieved. So here we understand, instead of grace, we are driven by the clock. We're driven by profit. We're driven the way the bottom line is impacted the most. So knowing that time is the commodity, sometimes we have to challenge time. What do I mean by challenge time? We have to come up with our own way, our own plan, our own perspective of how do I put those attainables, those measurables, those goals before people where they want to perform to meet them, as opposed to it becomes another thing on a long list of unattainables that I'm not getting paid for. I can't justify my time versus my income. And therefore, the attitude of performance isn't led as entirely good as it could have been. So it's entirely possible that leading a business is simply a measurable. You only lead in business to impact your bottom line. You're not leading in business to impact the people around you. Your performance is driven by a dollar more than your performance is driven by personal growth, self-reflection, and the growth of the team that's growing around you. Now, mind you, the team is growing around you. How is it growing around you? How is the team that you live with impacted by your attitude, your tone, your delivery, your tendency towards sarcasm versus just clear, gracious comments and criticism? We understand that a culture of accountability is the number one dynamic factor that's the hardest to achieve in any organization. I've been in churches, I've been in schools, and now I'm in my own office sitting in industry. How do we do this? How do we lead out as Christ leads? So that's what I want to walk through. These aren't my words. These came from a brainstorming session with a growing new friend of mine. And this is Dwight Mason's thoughts with me as we were penning through some whiteboard brainstorming the other day to figure out how 9 Degrees North can impact local church, how local church can impact 9 Degrees North, and foundations to develop leaders all around us. So many people think I have walked away from the pulpit, meaning I've also walked away from Christ, and I'll also say you don't know me very well. God's just providing a different plan, a different path, and a different means to execute what it looks like to live a life that's been redeemed and can glorify Him. So in this, going back to our own self-study, before it even impacts our business, our leadership, our home, our parenting. Kelly, right? Good to see you join us this morning. But to understand this very picture that we're given in Christ, and again, I'm going to give full credit to Dwight as we talk through this because it became a fun conversation. There's a right way, there's a wrong way to do all kinds of things. Sometimes we just would land that there's a good way and a better way. So maybe we'll start there in this category. But if you find that you are struggling to get people to follow, if you're struggling to find people that want to listen to what you have to offer, I'm going to ask how you're delivering these 4 things in your life. Are you basically the person that comes in as the authority? I'm the boss. I'm the one in charge. And because I'm the boss, you're accountable to me. Because I'm the coach, you're accountable to me. Because I'm your mom, you're accountable to me. Because I'm your father, you're accountable to me. You demand authority first, accountability second. You then deliver affirmation based on the performance of the first 2. And oftentimes that affirmation is somebody's felt need of perception of acceptance. Now, if we flip the coin, here's where it gets challenging. And we're going to flip the coin. And we're going to push hard on this. I'm to love my neighbor as myself. When Jesus was challenged by the Pharisees, and they were going to catch him in maybe even a blasphemous conversation where they thought he would say something inappropriate against the words of God that they already had, where Christ then, he's Christ, he's God. They needed to understand you're asking the wrong person. You just asked the wisest person, the smartest person, the one that knows all things in the universe, a trick question. Don't be surprised if he got it right. So here Jesus is saying, go, love your neighbors yourself. Treat them the same way that you'd want to be treated. Therefore, in our leadership, we need to start with acceptance. Don't start with your authority. Don't start flexing who you are. Start in the position of acceptance. Doesn't matter creed. Doesn't matter skin tones. Doesn't matter anything. In Christ's words, you're to love your neighbor as yourself. He didn't say after the right wing. He didn't say after the left wing. He said to love them as yourself. So therefore, Christ is delivering acceptance first. He's offering hope and affirmation second. He's seen your walk. He's seen your journey. And then showing accountability third. He very rarely speaks of his authority in damning people and critiquing people to understand you do it my way or else get out of here. That tone, that attitude isn't one that's going to reflect a lot of growth into people, except for hardship of understanding. So I promise to keep these moments short as we get started, and they will lengthen out here as we get into our lunchtimes together on Thursdays. I got plans to have several other people join me in conversation and dialogue that would be even possibly played back as a longer playing podcast. But today I'm going to ask you to reflect. Do I want to grow? Do I want to allow the tools that would approach a piece of wood on a lathe to be brought to me to shape me into who I need to be the best leader I can be? Remember last week's, we didn't ask for it, people to admire us. We didn't address people and solicit them. Hey, be on my admirers list. Let me know that you admire me. And then we start leading out of how many people admire us. People will watch you for what you do. Hopefully there's friends of mine that are home today on a snow day, and they get to watch me for who I am. Not for an admirer's sake, but for somebody to push back onto you to be that tool on that lathe to help tool you to be the person that God intends you to be, leading whatever it is you do. Your children admire you. Your sons, your daughters, they look up to you. Do they have opportunity to ever say, I don't like what mom's doing right now? I don't like how dad's speaking to me right now. Absolutely. We all fail. But do we also show them a picture of humble grace? Do we show them a picture of forgiveness? So I'm going to ask us to flip the coin and not be one that bends the bow of authority and accountability and then gives affirmation because they did a good job. But you show affirmation first. You love them for who they are, their situation, whatever's going on, and listen, and then lead them, help them, guide them. This is our word today from 9 Degrees North, aiming to lead to grow and grow to lead. I thank all those that have helped me get my audio fixed and get us on the right track this morning. I pray and trust that each one of you feel that you have the ability to ever reach out if you have questions or thoughts or ideas. Feel free always, whenever you're listening, drop me a line or a comment, ask a question back, give me a new topic, give me a new direction, because I'll take that into account to figure out how we write and aim each of you onto the future that we're going to be as great leaders. Have a great Thursday. Be safe out there. Ryan Austin, don't break a leg skiing this weekend. I wish I could join you, but I can't. You guys all have a great day. Thanks for listening.